Hey there, students. Thank you for being part of this presentation. Today we're focusing on U.S. government, and we're actually doing Unit 3 today, or beginning Unit 3, which is Civil Rights, Citizenship, and Civic Participation. And our focus is for local, state, and national government tutorial. Please remember that you have to have a notebook in order to take notes as you are reviewing this tutorial. It has 41 pages. So you need to be doing your best with your notebook, taking notes. This way you can be ready for tests as well as to answer all of the questions that you will be asked during this tutorial. And our objective for today is that you will analyze the powers given to the national, state, and local governments. Let's move on. We are now on page 11, local, state, and national government tutorial. And this is a fairly simple activity. All you're doing is you're looking at this box. You're given three options: national, share, and state powers. What you will do is you will grab these tiles and you will move them to the area that you think they belong. And once you're done, submit your assignment and continue to move on to the next assignment. We are now moving on to page 12 of the local, state, and national government tutorial. And this is the lesson activity, the federal system. Let's read some of the directions so you'll know exactly what to do here. Read the instructions for this self-check activity, type in your response to each question, and check your answers. At the end of the activity, write a brief evaluation about your work. Let's read the activity part here. The idea that power is shared between the national government and the state is known as federalism. Throughout U.S. history, the balance of power between the national government and the state government has changed immensely. At different points, the balance has tipped towards more national power or more state powers, or sometimes become somewhat even. In this task, you will consider different periods in which the balance has changed. Part A. Use the internet, a library, or another source to research why each listed event caused a change in the makeup of the power between, or the balance between, local, state, and national governments. Write an explanation as you see here in this particular table. Well, here you have different events that you need to research online, and here you have the effects that it had. Let's check the first one. 1787 Constitution creates the first federal system. The effect on balance of power between local, state, and national governments. The newly drafted Constitution included a system that would share powers between the states and the national government. And you will be doing the same for all of these events here. By the way, do not just copy and paste. Make sure that you are using your own words in order to describe the effects in this section here. Let's move on to part B. Write a short essay about the above events and describe your opinion on how the role of local, state, and national governments has changed during history, or U.S. history. Do you think one of these eras had the correct balance of power between local, state, and national governments compared with the other eras? Do you think that the balance of power, in this case for the government, should continually shift to meet new events? How do you think local, state, and national governmental power might change in the future? Well, you have a couple of questions that you have to answer here. So you should be able to put together a good 3-paragraph essay. You need to go back to this event. This is why it's important that you look at all of the events here on the first part A, and you provide as many details on the effects on balance of power. And you will use that information and create a fantastic essay. Remember, it has to have an introduction. It has to have a body paragraph, at least one, and it has to have a conclusion. Please make sure that you put your best effort there. We are now moving on to page 39, local, state, and national government tutorial. And this is another lesson activity, participation in state and local governments. Let's go over some of the directions here. Read the directions or the instructions for this self-check activity, type in your response to each question, and check your answers. At the end of the activity, write a brief evaluation about your work. Now let's see what the activity part says. Most Americans are familiar with the idea of an indirect democracy or representative democracy, where you vote for a candidate, such as a president or a mayor, to represent you in government. In the process, citizens participate by selecting candidates to support, volunteering to campaign for a candidate, communicating with elected officials about issues of interest, and sometimes even choosing to become candidates themselves. Direct democracy is a different form of democratic government. Small towns in New England used direct democracy to govern their communities when the United States was a young nation. But direct democracy often falls apart with large population. Parts of American government today, however, still use direct democracy in certain ways. Read this article. Make sure that you always go to this, in this case, like this article, this link over here, and make sure that you are reading and taking notes about it, because that will help you answer the questions. So read this article, Initiative, Referendum, and Recall, which details the three main forms of direct democracy in the United States today. Part A. What do you think are the advantages of these methods of direct democracy? See, you have to look at this link over here, and that will help you answer these questions. Make sure that when you're answering, you look at all of the information, and then, because you should have taken notes on that information, it should be fairly easy for you to write a good paragraph here. And when I say a good paragraph, I mean at least 5 sentences, and they have to be strong, solid sentences. Please do not write one sentence, because that will show your teacher that you're not really comprehending the question and the content. Let's move on to part B. What do you think are the disadvantages of these methods of direct democracy? Make sure, once again, that you fully understand this article here, the initiative, the referendum, and the recall. And based on your notes, you should be able to answer question B. So what do you think are the disadvantages of these methods of direct democracy? Do you think they are helpful? Do you think they benefit democracy overall? Or do you think they are harming democracy? Just write me a good paragraph here that explains to me that you fully understand this part. Part C. According to the article in 2002, Rhode Island had an advisory referendum on whether citizens favor altering the state's constitution to make all three branches of government co-equal. Voters overwhelmingly voted yes, but the non-binding referendum did not force legislators to act one way or another. In a couple of short paragraphs, explain whether you think this type of referendum is useful and beneficial. What are the benefits of having a direct binding referendum? What are the drawbacks? Please make sure, obviously right here, you kind of have to give your opinion, and you kind of have to provide a reason for your opinion. So I would say for this particular response here, you need to have at least 2 solid paragraphs in which you explain what you're being asked to do. But all of that, again, reference back to this particular initiative, referendum, and recall article. Make sure that you read that, and that will help you answer part C. And thank you for being part of this presentation. I will talk to you soon.